It has taken our planet millions of years to grow the rich forest biodiversity which we find all over the world. But over the past 50 years, half the world's original forest cover has disappeared. Just 50 years. By the time you finish watching this documentary, close to 1,000 hectares of forest would have disappeared from the face of the earth. Forests are one of the pillars of life in our universe. Apart from the oceans, forests are the Earth's biggest habitat for living organisms. Almost all the world's rivers and lakes owe their survival to the watershed protection which forests provide them. Today, forests are mankind's single greatest weapon against the looming disaster of climate change. But everywhere, this great resource is bleeding and disappearing, including Ghana. Ghana is special for being the country closest to the center of the earth. Blessed with abundant tropical forest and savanna vegetation, Ghanaians take such immense pride in the vibrant greenery of their land so much that it is symbolized as the color green in the country's flag. But it is possible that one day, soon, Ghanaians would look at the green in their flag and be reminded not of national pride, but a national tragedy, because the story of Ghana's forest is already a heartbreaking one.
Almost a century or for the past 50 years, the forest resource in Ghana has been reduced from about 8.2 million hectares to less than 2 million hectares. Now, most of the forest cover we have in Ghana, about 60% is concentrated in the western region of Ghana. So if we don't find a way of protecting the remaining forest cover we have in Ghana, a time will come we will not have our forest cover. And it is associated with problems and challenges. Now we are seeing flooding of our riverbanks and in our communities because we are cutting our forest trees for timber and other uses.
Unless we can stop and reverse this trend of destruction, the consequences will be dire. Government has the primary responsibility to preserve what is left of Ghana's forest, but citizens, non-governmental organizations, communities and wider civil society can also join hands and forces to help in this cause. This documentary tells the story of how Care Ghana, has worked creatively with communities to maintain and enhance the integrity of Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire's remaining forest using the innovative USAID-funded Transboundary Natural Resources Initiative. The project is currently being implemented in 4 districts in the western region of Ghana, as well as 3 sous-prefectures and 8 communities in Cote d'Ivoire, all situated close to the border between both countries. The western region alone is home to 60% of what remains of Ghana's depleted forest cover, but it also remains the country's largest producer of timber. Doubtless, the risk of further forest loss are very high, and that explains why CARE, aptly supported by USAID, chose to site the TBA project in 4 districts with large but increasing forest and deforestation respectively.
First of all, the project is a transboundary project, so it is imperative that we take locations or communities that are transboundary, close to the border between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. Another reason why we selected this area is because of the biodiversity significance. If you look at Ankasa Forest Reserve is located near the border here. To the northern part of Ankasa, we have 2 forest reserves which are partial GSBs, the Boyne Tunnel Forest Reserve and the Jima Asem Krum Forest Reserve. If you go beyond that in Inchi too, we have Boyne River Forest Reserve and then Yoyo Forest Reserve, which are all partial GSBs. In Cote d'Ivoire, where communities are fringing around Forêt Marais Tanoé, which is also a globally significant biodiversity area. Actually, as a matter of fact, the Miss Waldron's red colobus, which is widely believed to be extinct, is reported to still be harboring in that forest reserve. So it is of strong or prime conservation importance, hence the selection of communities around area to enhance the ecosystem and then biodiversity conservation of that area.
The idea is to make communities in critical biodiversity areas take greater responsibility in the protection and management of forest resources. But more strategically, CARE was concerned with moving beyond what government, through the Forestry Commission, was doing to protect the forest reserves, to include the areas outside of the forest reserves. Since 2008, CARE, supported by USAID, has worked extensively with stakeholders to implement various interventions in 18 and 8 communities in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire respectively. The interventions have been in 4 key areas: improved forest management, improved forest governance, alternative livelihood through enterprise development, and capacity building in conflict capability targeted at community, district, and regional stakeholder groups.
Some of the key and specific activities are the creation of community resource management areas, which are the CREMES. This is to support the national goal of creating CREMES or buffer zones around protected areas or areas with significant biodiversity. And in this regard, we've established 2 CREMES, one in Ghana and one in Cote d'Ivoire. In Ghana, we've established the Jima Asem Krum CREMA. Jima Asem Krum are communities with other smaller communities which are strategically located in between the Ankasa Reserve, the Jima Asem Krum Forest Reserve, and then the Boyne Tunnel Forest Reserve. So there's a need to create a good number of buffers to help enhance the integrity of these reserves. In Cote d'Ivoire too, we are creating 1 CREMA around the Forêt Marais Tanoé.
In the area of improved forest governance, the strategy has been to facilitate the formation of forest forums at all levels, including community, district, regional, and national, in order that transparency and accountability in the forest sector is significantly improved.
In forest governance, the essence of it was to create a platform where stakeholders can interact and talk about forestry issues, especially to give communities the opportunity to participate and make inputs into the management of forest resources, of which they are a major stakeholder. What we did was to organize the forest forums at various levels of natural resource management. At the community level, we mobilized all the communities with the diverse stakeholders, the chiefs, the women, farmers, and other community-based organizations to discuss issues that are of importance to them regarding the forest. In such forums, we also identify issues that could not be resolved within their own community, and then we move it to the district forest forum. In the district forest forum, we look at getting the district officials, like the district assembly, the forestry services division, MOFA, together to discuss some of the issues that are coming from the community, to find ways of resolving such issues.
And so the whole governance system, the forest governance environment, require that we enhance stakeholders' ability to appreciate that conflict is natural and that conflict is not necessarily bad, and that whenever there's conflict, there are other ways that we can use to deal with the conflict without necessarily resorting to force or to litigation, that is maybe going to court. That there are other collaborative ways of trying to manage these conflicts.
Achieving improved forest management has been the leading intervention of the project. Much of this has involved tree planting as farm forest, watershed protection, and sacred grove protection. To make this happen, the project helped to establish 16 central community nurseries in 16 communities, which have enabled almost 30,000 tree species to be planted in both Ghana and the Cote d'Ivoire in only 3 years. Take the farm forest concept as an example. The project has supported over 354 individuals, including 156 women, to successfully integrate short-term, medium-term, and long-term crops and trees, such as vegetables, citrus and moringa, and indigenous timber trees into their conventional cocoa farming practices. And in all of this, the idea is not just to get people to plant trees, but to own what they plant and benefit from them economically.
Mpelefo mu dikan dodo afuno aye ne yeme hu no omodo afuno no mo bu emu no na agu tiko si wa enche kwa na kokoro na san awu ohun na we no kefo na ma ya tiasese udua enuanu wo afuno ma to me kokoro no edu ekwa ni mi chen kan na kokoro na enche na awu no nti sa bote no yetumi sesi akwa eboayen.
One of the most important things humankind has learned over thousands of years is that forests and rivers have a special bond that should never be disrupted, because trees provide watershed critical to survival of these water bodies. But in the project areas, many rivers have been in danger of completely losing their watersheds due to farming and tree cutting along their banks. But the project has made tremendous progress to help bring this restoration. This is the Tano River, one of Ghana's most important rivers, whose banks have been encroached and is increasingly endangered. But thanks to the project, trees are being replanted along its banks and several of its tributary rivers and streams. 9 community action plans for watershed management have been developed and implemented in 9 communities. 400 hectares of hotspots have been identified for restoration planting along 8 water bodies. In all, about 587 individuals and 8 groups have been actively involved in these watershed management activities, and they are doing it with pride.
I find pa menkwa madu abe 300 especially emre no ne ofram no said ye AC co speed no metumi hu se manya bi kura da ache me ma no omo nko forest mu enko nkotwa nnua mo how bia emma even kura interest e benya no odua no no so bi an tokro e betumi di bia boye dan so e betumi di bia ye nkonwa
emfaso a e de bebre sa nkrutuo no se na mdi ka kae no didi kan no e bo won asase no ho ban asase no ho ban didi kan no sinsuo to a etimi yi gata akese hohoro ese asase no ba se nnua no e wo so a emma asase no etimi ejina wo bra enhohoro emma nnua no so etetigu asase no so a obronu be ka say improve the fertility of the soil asase ni mu nipa no emma etimi eyeye emma koko na no baye obedua no enso so etimi yeye e de ma wo.
Sacred grove management has been one of the cornerstones of the project. The idea of forest sacred groves is one of the greatest and oldest traditional innovations of conservation in African society, and one of the project's landmarks is to incorporate such traditional innovations into modern conservation efforts. And as the project has learned, it is proving very effective.
Nti yanso ye ba na ese ye to aso yanso ye trans hu se kwaye no se ye bo ho ban a ebeboaye amechina ye ma no omo wa chire nso omo hu kwaye na afi nso se yetumi ye ni ye mpo a aban mpo betumi a tourist wa ma amanfo abehwe na yanso yanya sika wumne ye de ayam puntu ye hye nkuru an se ye beto aso na ya bomodene asre ato aban se bia da achin bi se omukọ na ekuwe foforo bi ba omeso yemu ni yanso yanto aso ni yanso yenya ne sa ye be mo hu se ni yeye no eho abamfaso.
In places like Sewum, Omanpe and other communities, the project is helping to rediscover and enrich this great tradition. So far, profiling, boundary demarcation and enrichment planting has been completed for 3 sacred groves, and the project is working with the district assembly to include these areas in the Awin Swaman District Eco-Tourism Development Plan.
FSD, in collaboration with CARE, have been meeting the communities in their various areas to educate them on biodiversity conservation. In fact, we have been preparing a sacred grove management plan for the community in order to help them in the protection and management of the sacred grove, because that area forms part of forest as a whole, so that with that it can complement the effort of the forest in general, what they do for human life.
But more than just planting trees, the project also ensures that communities are fully aware and deeply appreciative of rare, threatened, and endangered biodiversity in their areas through a targeted biodiversity sensitization and training program. In more than 14 communities, over 10 stakeholder groups have been sensitized on the inherent values of various globally significant biodiversity areas occurring in their areas, and the sensitization has already produced important outcomes.
Atrase ahyehyɛ emra omode babo nyame abode no ba abode no ba bi te sɛ nsu a atwa omo ahia yenkwaye yemfofo emunue ewom emo ewom ne nyina no omo ahyehyɛ emra sɛ ne wo ye chenso operator ansa na obedo wonsa bekaka edua bi no wapae no age sɛ wanya tumi krata a free aban ho a ye kyerɛ sɛ wutumi de omo ahye no ekokopae edua nsu a atwa omo ahia no obi ntumi mfa poison enkonkogu ensu no mu sɛ okwakoyi mu enam nti o ma hyehye emra nyina o de bossa ne ma no eban a emra ne se o ma develop o ma se o ma ye emra no awie a o de akọ district assembly a ma isi this assembly nso o ma age atum a sese a o so de o de ba beka ho na o de abo sa nyame abode no ban
mpate o hwe krima no sebe ka fro nchiche sika but oboa ye kwan a wa bra bom betumpon nti ye di sa adwuma di o ma bra ye enka a isi stress omo abre ahoro mensa ma kruma no ya sopra ma obia nyame edua nti wo bo nyame abode ho ba no on omo abre nnua a yedua mahogany nom ofram sidera but ono a long term process obechel nti anka na omde aboa oni omde aba de be 3 years na so na che se wo bo nyame abode ho ba na so wunya bibi kakra ma kokokuru ampu ni ho a wonim se ye na yeku afo se kokoko season ma ya che se yenyi ska ma sa na ma no boy omde ya fa fish pond training me che se ya ye mo abehwe pond na ma si America se nche bia ombe bre nam si America se mesi afo nso obi mugu training so de den aseminafo a si America se omugu so a omusu nti we na yentu ahwe omo ankasa na omo boa yen niema ye de beye bibi omo an omo boa ya omo chereche amadachi nso ye nyamfa so.
And the success is not limited to Ghana. Across the border in Cote d'Ivoire, SOS Foray, the project's partner organization, led a number of local NGOs in collaboration with some beneficiary communities in a joint advocacy to halt the planned conversion of the Tanwe forest area to palm plantation by oil palm plantations giant Palm CI.
Bon, l'idée de la réserve est venue du fait que nous avons travaillé dans la zone transfrontalière entre le Ghana et la Côte d'Ivoire. Et au cours de nos investigations, de nos activités, nous avons demandé, nous avons sensibilisé la population dans la protection de la biodiversité, des forêts et des ressources forestières. C'est au cours de nos activités, de conservation, que nous avons appris, nous avons constaté que la PAMSI voulait transformer la forêt de la Tanoué en palmeraie, plantation de palmiers à huile. Et là, avec l'appui de nos partenaires, Care International et nos partenaires aussi ivoiriens, nous avons fait beaucoup de démarches et au ministère de l'Environnement, il a été créé une commission pour atteindre la protection ou bien la création de la réserve naturelle volontaire.
Cette forêt, il n'y en a pas beaucoup. Et la destruction va entraîner la destruction de l'environnement. Et donc, en protégeant ça, nous, on s'est dit, non seulement protégeons la forêt, nous protégeons les animaux. Et donc, la pluviométrie va exister. Et donc, nos enfants, plus tard, verront ce qu'on appelle forêt et verront ce qu'on appelle les animaux. Et par conséquent, nous tous on gagne. C'est ce qu'on appelle le développement durable. Et nous pensons que l'opinion internationale va nous soutenir dans ce débat. Parce que l'idéal serait qu'on casse la forêt. On a lutté même. Nous, la communauté, on a lutté contre une exploitation industrielle qui venait implanter, investir des milliards à leur propre compte. On a dit non, on ne veut pas. On veut la réserve naturelle.
Perhaps the project's most exciting feature for communities is the aspect of enterprise development. This is why the project focuses on the immediate economic survival of the communities and promotes entrepreneurial ideas that create jobs and take pressure off the forest resources. In just 3 years, over 2,000 individuals have received training in fish farming, pepper cultivation and processing, piggery, beekeeping, and bakery, and a good number of them have begun their own businesses.
Mepacho ebra kefo ne ba ya ye beye sa adesua no me di aboa me bebre efise na me bo pan no dada bet ma me ne ba ye no o ma ye hu se adwuma no se be koso a ese se ye ne yie ene ma ye fa na ma ye ndwene ne ma na ye fa no ne mo se ti me fa no ma ne dodo na ye ne yie a eno mo be boa ya ma ya to ne ntem na adwuma no so etima koso ampa me so me fa kwan a o kire me no so no first na me bopan no ne de be ne no metimi hu se makomanim bebre me ya ensoto tembia me ye eboa me busua ama madwuma no akoso pa
careful by ne embedi nsawoso ye dwumadi makwa adwuma enti makwa adwuma no so ya bua won ma ye de adwene ma won ma ye ma sese makonu ya dua ma aso menya kantan baako na kantan baako me hwa menya 1 million na so nyina besa no so menya kantan no du nti menya 10 million.
In order to help improve forest governance processes, the project has helped to facilitate and support the establishment of forest forums, which are platforms for effective multi-stakeholder dialogue on pertinent forest management issues. So far, forest forums have been supported in 11 communities with 913 participating individuals and 11 stakeholder groups. And the outcomes of these forums have been remarkable.
Yes, school now fancy overcrowd. School class back to me about 120, 130. Near year, I can see a betchem, you know, and a B stream. Into your own woman, Tiasiema, made in Kunyan Coma contract 75 million. Old Ghana citizen, and Momo in Kunyano, at the Brema Samatas food to Yaka. Na yanso yo ekwan bi tietia da ha e wo se piadwo nti monye mai a wo moje tum se sa dia na wo begina se sika no so dia start ye kwan no ana ma enam so na yenya kwan a efiri omampe epie adwom through that SRA.
Natural resource related conflicts are common in forest rich areas, and these sometimes make it even more difficult to mobilize communities to act in their own common interest. The project has therefore ensured that stakeholders at all levels appreciate conflict as a constructive force while recognizing and eliminating destructive tendencies. The idea is to institutionalize the notion of conflict capability in the management of natural resources in the transboundary area between Ghana and the Cote d'Ivoire.
Training on conflict capability is very important for the CREMA process, because wherever resources are, there are conflicts because people have different interests, and in fighting for their interests, conflicts arise. So this training, which deals about the knowledge, skills and attitude in conflict management, will help the community members manage any conflict that arises from the community with regard to the forest resources.
Conflict resolution no antawa na ya na ebebeba no eni no say careful na bi communities no more sensitize o bi won adwuma ma eni sa mempen ne kanen kamesi na ano abrase kura enti bibia ni a no di mirika ba forest yaso ye ha mo bibisam yi na eso enyambotre ne records ni ade no ntino etimi akyereke won bi ni ma bi ni so ama won emu obi e fata ne ba bi eso mo kɔ no ni akyere won.
So what have been the major lessons of designing and implementing this project? And what are the opportunities going forward?
One challenge I can talk about is people who are also more interested in their farming activities. And so to get them on board has always been a very difficult task, but it's not one that cannot be surmounted. As you may be aware, land litigation, cutting of this timber without informing the landlord are all part of the conflict. So the project has an inbuilt mechanism for dealing with this conflict, and it is building the capacity of the community members to realize that forests and natural resource, there are bound to be conflicts with it. So this training that we do is supposed to help them when they go back and there are issues arising in terms of conflict, they will be able to deal with it.
As in a traditional setting, women have limited voice in the management of natural resources. It took a little bit of effort to get women on board. Now, the different stakeholders having to come together also took a little bit of time. As timber companies always think they are doing the right thing, the Forestry Services Division is always also in control. So getting the collaboration at the initial stages was difficult, but over the period, as the project went on, stakeholders saw the need to support the project activity.
The biggest lesson perhaps is the area of strategy and sustainability.
After the exit of care, the District Assembly has resolved to also be part and take part actively in supporting enterprise growth in the district. Currently, what I can say is that the District Assembly in its medium-term plan has an economic development plan, that is local economic development plan. And in this plan, we have categorized so many interventions that are geared towards sustaining businesses and creating employment in the district.
Yen so ekwan ya be fa so edwuma di omo de ahye yen se yan kasa na ebe because forest fu nim hu bi disassembly nim hu bi na nanom nim hu bi nti se ye hia bibia ye be consult am stakeholders ye be consult am na so ye dwun na ya ba ko na mo bia ye na ye din sa so na madwuma di akoso.
We find ways of maintaining, like I said before, our communities in everything we do. And because these are come out clearly in this project that we undertook, that if communities are involved and they participate really in everything that is done, they see the need to go ahead with implementing and also sustaining their successes, because they're also part of it, and they see, if they see they are consulted, they'll always be part of whatever is done for it to move forward.
The TBA project is without doubt a success. It represents a model that can be replicated all over Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and the rest of Africa, and indeed anywhere in the world where forests are at a risk. Scientists estimate that at current rates of destruction, the world's rainforest cover could disappear in just 100 years, and Ghana's own forest cover could vanish in just 30 years. But as these 18 communities in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire have demonstrated, change can happen, one community at a time. After 3 years of implementation, CARE and its partners, including the USAID, are picking important lessons from the ground and are working to scale up and to deepen results. If the Transboundary Forest Area and Biodiversity Project proves any point, this is it. That indeed change can happen when we care.